Hi and welcome back to Free Science Lessons. By the end of this video, you should be able to use the atomic number and mass number to work out the number of protons, neutrons and electrons in atoms of an element, isotopes and ions. We've already seen that atoms contain a central nucleus surrounded by electrons. Electrons have a negative charge. In the nucleus, we find protons, which have a positive charge, and neutrons, which have no charge. In other words, they're neutral. And remember that atoms have no overall charge. That's because the number of electrons is the same as the number of protons. This means that the positive charges on the protons are cancelled by the negative charges on the electrons. Now, the periodic table shows us the elements, and we can use this to work out the numbers of protons, neutrons and electrons for a given element. I'm showing you here the symbol for the element lithium. Now, the symbol for each element has two numbers. The smaller number is called the atomic number, and the atomic number tells us the number of protons in atoms of that element. So this means that atoms of lithium have 3 protons in their nucleus. We've already seen that the number of electrons is the same as the number of protons, so atoms of lithium also have 3 electrons. Now the larger number is called the mass number, and the mass number tells us the total number of protons and neutrons added together. So atoms of lithium contain a total of 7 protons and neutrons. Now, to work out the number of neutrons, we need to subtract the atomic number from the mass number. So this means that atoms of lithium contain 4 neutrons. I'm showing you here the symbols of 4 different elements. I'd like you to work out the number of protons, neutrons and electrons for each element. So pause the video now and try this yourself. Okay, atoms of beryllium contain 4 protons, 5 neutrons and 4 electrons. Atoms of sodium contain 11 protons, 12 neutrons and 11 electrons. Atoms of fluorine contain 9 protons, 10 neutrons and 9 electrons. And finally, atoms of phosphorus contain 15 protons, 16 neutrons and 15 electrons. Now, a key fact you need to remember is that all the atoms of the same element have the same number of protons. For example, every atom of lithium has 3 protons. However, the number of neutrons is not fixed. Most atoms of lithium have 4 neutrons, but some atoms of lithium contain a different number of neutrons. We call these different versions isotopes. Here's a definition of isotopes, and you need to learn this. Isotopes are atoms of the same element with different numbers of neutrons. Carbon has 3 common isotopes, and we can see them here. The first isotope contains 6 protons and 6 neutrons. The second isotope contains 6 protons and 7 neutrons. And finally, the third isotope contains 6 protons and 8 neutrons. This shows the 2 most common isotopes of chlorine. I'd like you to work out the numbers of protons and neutrons in each isotope, so pause the video now and try this yourself. Okay, the first isotope of chlorine contains 17 protons and 18 neutrons, and the second isotope of chlorine contains 17 protons and 20 neutrons. We're going to finish by looking at ions. Ions are atoms which have an overall charge. That's because ions have lost or gained electrons. Remember that electrons have a negative charge. Positive ions have lost electrons, whereas negative ions have gained electrons. I'm showing you 2 examples here. The example on the left shows a sodium ion with a single positive charge. This means that the sodium atom must have lost 1 electron. So this sodium ion has 11 protons, 12 neutrons, but only 10 electrons. The example on the right shows a fluoride ion with a single negative charge, so the fluorine atom must have gained 1 electron. So this fluoride ion has 9 protons, 10 neutrons and 10 electrons. Here are 2 for you to try. I'd like you to work out the numbers of protons, neutrons and electrons for these 2 ions, so pause the video now and try this yourself. Okay, the oxide ion on the left has an overall 2 negative charge. This means that the oxygen atom must have gained 2 electrons. So this oxide ion has 8 protons, 8 neutrons and 10 electrons. The aluminium ion on the right has an overall 3 positive charge. This means that the aluminium atom must have lost 3 electrons. So this aluminium ion has 13 protons, 14 neutrons and 10 electrons. You'll find plenty of questions on this topic in my revision workbook, which you can get by clicking on the link above.